Take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to the AndersonHouseHotel.com. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all background and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kiddie carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 73. Then Wednesday, hot sunshine with a high of 94. There's something for everybody at Cafe Latte in St. Paul. From award-winning soup, salad, sandwiches, and desserts to treats from the bakery made fresh daily and a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte is located on the corner of Grand Avenue and Victoria Street. Check them out at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Just like last night, and if you tuned in last night, we talked about UFOs. We talked a lot about UFOs. We talked about them in all sorts of different ways and a lot of theorizing and whatnot. And it was a fantastic conversation with Joe Shortridge, and I hope to do it again. I was saying this morning at the station, every sentence could have been an episode on its own. It was very good. We're going to continue that vibe tonight, and this one is going to be very interesting to talk about. And one reason is because I have known about this happening for years and years and years. It's always been in the back of my mind, but I've never really talked to anybody about it. And I'm really excited because I'm going to be talking to someone who actually took part in what the situation was. And so we're talking tonight to John F. Burroughs, and he wrote a book along with Toby Martinez called Project Rendlesham, Crossing the Threshold. And this is all about the 1980 Rendlesham forest incident that you more than likely, if you follow UFOs in any way, and especially when it comes to government, this is going to be something that you are familiar with. We're going to really kind of talk about what happened, and then we're going to talk about really about the book that John and Toby has written about kind of everything else around it that I think a lot of us really may not know about at all. Certainly I don't, and that's why I'm really excited to have this conversation. So I'm going to bring on John right now. John, welcome to GhostBox Radio. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, thanks for having me on.
I really appreciate it. And so, I mean, John, if you're okay with this, I think this is the way I want to go. I want to just at least start start with what we may know about your experience and really what this whole Rendlesham forest incident was about. Can we just start with that, please?
Well, sure. It'll be 46 years this December.
Yeah.
It happened in December of 1980. We'd come on our last midnight shift. It was Christmas night, going into Boxing Day over there.
Mm-hmm.
And came on at 11. About 3 o'clock in the morning, I was riding with my supervisor when he actually first saw some strange lights in the sky coming down into the forest. Got my attention, and by that point they were in the forest, and so we decided to go down, leave the base, and go down to the end of the road and get a better feel for what we were dealing with, to see what we needed to do, if anything. Once we got down to the end of the road, things didn't seem right. The lights themselves seemed to be coming towards the base. So we went back up to the gate, called it in on the phone, not on the radio. And we got transferred to CSC, who sent security patrol down, saw the same thing. Then the bigwigs got involved, and they also contacted radar. And what they came back and told us was radar saw something over the area and went down into the forest. So at that point, the shift commander decided to send us off base to investigate if possibly an aircraft went down. So the three of us, there were myself and my partner. He didn't want to go, and he couldn't have gone anywhere. They had to leave one of the 2 NCOs in charge. So the security supervisor, his rider, myself, we departed the base and went down into the forest to see if we could figure out what was going on. So when we got into the forest, the lights were there. They were strange. This could take an hour to describe it.
Right.
The gist of it is, we felt like we were getting close to something. There was static electricity in the air. It seemed at one point it was behind us again, and then eventually we came to a berm, and the lights were out kind of in front of us. We went up to the top of the berm and down. That's when the lights were right there, and they got real bright. We all hit the ground, and that's when everything changes, because there were 3 of us, and all 3 of us remembered differently. So we got close to something. Did you have a question? Or?
No. I'm just like, I'm listening intently, because this is incredible. And I mean, yes, I do have questions, because
okay.
my first thought on that is, you mentioned that the original thought, like based on the radar, is that it was a downed plane, a down vessel, whatever. When you get closer to it, I mean, how soon did you start thinking, this isn't that? It also isn't, like, perhaps it is an enemy plane or craft or anything. I mean, when did it start really hitting you that this is something very different?
The premise to send us off base was the downed aircraft.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure what their thinking was, up at control in the command post. But none of us there really felt like it was at least I should say most of us there didn't feel like it was probably a downed aircraft. The way it was acting in the woods right away didn't lead us to believe that there was an aircraft sitting there down. There was no fire or anything like that, or explosion. So we just didn't know what we were dealing with. And to be honest with you, we didn't. 2 of the 3 of us at that point, even when we got close to it, weren't sure what it was. Now, the security supervisor later on, is when he's been interviewed, said, well, first of all, he claims that the 3rd guy wasn't even with us, which he was, but there were 3 of us. The one guy, the airman, it was brand new on flight, first night, said he remembers seeing it black, and we all blacked out, and then woke up and it was gone. Now, that was his story that he did do an interview for James Fox. I remember getting close to it. The lights dimmed. Then there was some colored lighting in there, and then they got bright again, and they went up in the sky and took off. The security supervisor said that I was frozen in the light, and he went up and walked around it, touched it, got a binary download, saw glyphs, which he touched and led to the binary download, and he said it was a triangular object. So those are the 3 different memories from getting close to it, but ultimately it did go and depart. And at that point, the 3 of us then proceeded out of the forest and off out of the forest into a field and then down by some cottages and saw some lights again and proceeded towards the coast, before we lost it. So that was night one. And then when we came back, first thing we started realizing was where we went or appeared, because we were in the dark and we'd never done that before. But later, a few years later, I went back there and walked it. Honestly, there's no way from the time the event started till the time we got back to the base that we could have gotten all that could have happened to us. It was less than an hour and a half. And when we went out and walked it during the daytime a few years later, it was about 2-3 miles to the coast. And we would have had to done all that, leave the base, go all the way out, come all the way back. It just wasn't possible, but we don't have an explanation. There was one thing that when we got back, our watches were 45 minutes slow.
So do you think it's possible? Because you said, and you explained it, there are three people, you're one of them. Each of you have a different memory of what happened. Do you think that all three of you could be right, though?
Well, this is, we can get into it later, but the British did a study on UAPs, and one of the things that was in the study that got declassified and released was they admitted that Rendlesham happened, that we were exposed to UAP radiation, but it can affect each person differently.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that what you remember is what really happened either. It can be somewhat what you remember, somewhat what you don't remember, or it could be completely, what you think you remember didn't really happen. I mean, that is, if you look at that particular study, Project Condign, and some of the other stuff they talked about, it will affect you. And those type of frequencies and what UAPs give off and everything will affect your memory and what you remember and how you remember it. So, anything's possible. That's the one thing I can just say, that we do have three of us have different memories. And your question is, I suppose they could all be right, but it's hard to say. It's, I don't, two of the three of us don't remember any of what the security supervisor said happened, but again, that's possible. It still could have happened. So.
And what did the one who had the binary download, what does that mean?
Well, he claims he touched it, and then it's put a binary code in his brain, and then the next day when he was at home, he saw it and wrote it down. So, and then there was a message from the binary in the binary. So, what was the message? It's complicated. There was a message, some coding, and then there was 6 sites. I think it was. It's been a while since I've looked over that stuff, but we're talking about it. There was 3 sites on the western side of the world, 3 sites, well, the old world and the new world, and then there was a spot in between by England called High Brazil. So there's just a lot of questions to it. And the whole way it came out and stuff, but it just kind of, you have to admit, this is what's been talked about, what happened, so. It sounds incredible. So there was 2 nights here. So we were talking 3 nights, actually. There were 3 nights. Okay. Yeah, night 2, none of us, we went on break that morning. So a new flight replaced us. We rotated 3 swings, 3 mids, and went on 3 days of break. So the swing shift flight then transferred to mids on would have been Friday night. Okay. And they had something happen out in the forest. And I happened to come back up on the base early on Saturday morning, found out about it. So a couple of guys I was on flight with, I went to the dorm, we had breakfast. We decided to go back out there on Saturday night to see if we could figure out what was going on, because it just didn't add up. When we got out there, that was the night Colonel Halt was out there with his team and the Colonel Halt tape, and eventually met up with Colonel Halt. Colonel Halt, you can listen to the tape. We're on the tape. Colonel Halt eventually let myself and another sergeant go forward to get closer to what was coming towards us. And that's where it got really strange, because when we got close to it, the guy that was with me, the sergeant, we were running towards it. He went down to the ground and said he was held. And then he saw me go into the object or the lights or whatever it was and disappear. And I was gone for several minutes. So never mind what Halt saw out in the field with the lights in the skies, on the ground, and everything else. So there was 3 nights in a row in 1980 that weird stuff happened in the forest of Rendlesham.
Weird for sure. And did you go into like really close to where you could go into something, or is that something that someone saw that doesn't match what you remember?
Both times on night 1 and night 3, I remember getting close to something and then it was gone. So, but the people that were involved with me, Pennison said I was in the light, and then Sergeant Vistenza said I disappeared. So I don't remember either of those events, but that's what both of them said happened.
So and when though any of those nights you saw did the craft, was it exactly where it was all three, like the first and second night? Or
no, I never said it was a craft. It was lights. That's
sure.
What the
no, I'm calling it. I'm calling it.
But the sergeant, the supervisor, did say it was a craft. But to me, it was just different colored lights. But night 1, it was in the forest, and then went up and then went back towards the coast. Night 2, I have no idea where they had the encounter. I just know they did. And night 3, the halt team was farther out where the encounter took place. We were farther out into the farmer's field where the encounter happened. So, and I don't think I never really asked Colonel Halt. I don't think at any point right where we were at did it come back on night 3. It was farther out the whole time. So.
And you don't call it a craft because you never actually saw anything more than the lights themselves.
Right. It was never in my mind, never identified as a craft. Right.
Interesting. And then you never saw any figures or anything either, just lights.
Well, interesting enough, the blue lights through hypnosis and some other things may have been a life form. In fact, one of the individuals with Colonel Hall, he was a master sergeant, did a CNN did an investigation on special assignments, and he said the blue light had a life form in it. So it's possible the blue lights may have been intelligent in nature.
Do you think it's possible that the lights themselves are crafts with the life forms in them, or do you think that they were actually that those lights were life?
Well, that's what we've discussed in the book. The British government and the American government are well aware of UAPs. They've known about it for a long time. They've been studying it. In fact, what most people aren't even aware of, they've called this case the British Roswell, but the area outside the back gate at Woodbridge was the British's Area 51. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At that point in time in history, they were doing all the testing on all different kinds of technology right outside that back gate all the way to the coast. In fact, they developed, people aren't aware of it, they developed radar there, and they also developed the death ray there.
Okay. Wow, that's incredible. All that's incredible. I'm going to want to take a break here in a second, but I got to ask you, with those, you notice that you're getting close to light. Others are saying you're going into it. Was there anything on your body, such as any sort of scratches or anything that you did not notice before experiencing those 2 nights?
There was one thing, but I've never publicly disclosed it, because the thing that's interesting is I've had some people come forward over the years inside government that obviously knew what happened and saw the report because they identified what I did have. There was some indication of, I don't want to call it damage, but there was something on my body that was there. That if people knew that, then they knew something about the incident. I never publicly disclosed what that was. But yes, there was some exposure on my body.
In that night, because I want to kind of close this part where it's just kind of giving the overview, because I want to get into the weaponization in the next segment. But with that, was your experience done in December of 1980, or do you feel like that you've been either visited or there's something lingering from that time till now in any way?
If you're asking me, do I think that I've been followed by whatever happened to us? No, there's been some areas I've visited where strange things have happened, But the actual another like did what happened to us follow me like and the phenomenon itself or no, but it never ends what's gone on. It was actually everything that happened after the event was almost more eventful than what happened to us out there in those 2 nights I was out there with the different agencies and all the things that have happened since then, or at least as eventful as the event itself. So.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're fine with it, let's talk about that after the break.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's do that. What a great conversation. The book is called Project Rendlesham, Crossing the Threshold. John F. Burroughs is our guest. We're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Looking for something different for family fun, a night out with friends, or your next team-building event? Try the escape rooms at Lilliput. Step into the haunted mansion, race to find a cure in the bunker, or survive Night of the Wolf, all with just 60 minutes to escape. It's private, immersive, and perfect for groups of all kinds. Book your adventure now, spots fill fast. Visit lilliput.net and see if your team has what it takes to escape. You know, it's about this time every week I start talking about some of the stuff I plan on doing this weekend, and I am very excited because just tonight we made plans to go out to Mavericks this weekend to get a roast beef sandwich. I know that sounds like, well, that doesn't sound that exciting. Trust me, it is, and I'm excited about it. I love their food, and I cannot wait to get out there. And I live out in St. Michael, so going to Roseville isn't always totally accessible, but I always love making the trip to go out to Roseville for Mavericks. If you like roast beef sandwiches, if you like good food, there's more than just the roast beef sandwiches there. You got to make it out there. And one day I swear we're going to get like a GhostBox Radio group out there to be able to get out there and have a nice meal and everyone talk about their favorite ghost stories and everything else. It's going to be great. I also want to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about tonight with our special guest, John F. Burroughs, and he wrote the book with Toby Martinez, Project Rendlesham, Crossing the Thresholds book. It's one of two books. It's a second book, but I do want to point out to people, as always, go to your local bookstore, see if they can order it if they do not have it. Also, feel free to go to ghostboxradio.com/Ghostbox Book Club. We have an Amazon affiliated link there, so if you buy through us, it will directly help the radio show. I would really appreciate it. But as I said last night about Joe Shortridge's book, I don't care how you get it, just get it. It's well worth getting and reading everything about this. Once again, my guest tonight is John F. Burroughs, who is the author of that book. Now, John, just so I understand, to me, it seems like if this was just an ordinary case of something that happened in 1980, there'd be follow-up and stuff for sure. But why do I have a feeling that you've had a lot of follow-up over the years, like you mentioned in the previous segment, from different agencies and stuff?
Well, this is kind of how it played out. After the event, we got called in. Some people claim they were interrogated. I don't ever remember being brought in and interrogated, but some people claim that they were brought in and interrogated. There definitely a team came in from Langley. They brought in aircraft. They were out in the woods. They were involved in something. They were looking for something or involved in something. And that's from the point of view at that very moment. So there was something going on the base. Now, after the event, okay, it was kept quiet until the halt memo came out. And that's what makes this incident like a little different than a lot of these military incidents. It's not the fact that the other incidents didn't happen. It's not the fact things weren't reported, but the Air Force had to admit that this incident took place because the memo got released. So they had to admit that there was an events took place, at the largest tech fighter wing in the Air Force at the time, which is not what the Air Force has ever. They've never ever really admitted to anything, but they did tell, and CNN investigated, like I said, they admitted that there was stuff that took place and people were involved. So that when that got released, everything changed. Everybody started running after us. Different news agencies, reporters, people, and then CNN. But ultimately what happened with me, and I didn't feel well right after the event. A few months later when I was back in the States, when I got sick at home, it had nothing to do with the event. I had the flu, but I was back home, so I couldn't travel, so I had to go to emergency room. The Air Force made you go to the emergency room to verify you were sick. You just couldn't call in sick. When I went in there, they found heart issues. So they sent me back to the base, and they ended up bringing a doctor from Wright-Patterson. He confirmed it, sent me to Wright-Pat, and he did a bunch of testing. So at that point, I wasn't really told much other than I had a heart issue. And so the years went by. I had eye issues too. That was another whole thing. And the doctor, I was sent to a specialist in Texas, and they wanted to know if I was exposed to radiation. But none of this added up at that point. It was an interesting thing because I was scheduled to go to Korea, and the doctor did not want me to go because of my condition, but the Air Force overrode that and sent me to Korea. They were trying to hide us because that's when the case broke and CNN was digging into it. So I ended up spending a year in Korea. But to get through to the agencies and stuff, years later when I got sick, in other words, I got really sick, the civilian doctor was trying to figure out what was going on. And he wanted to go back to the point when this issue was identified. Well, that happened to be in the military. And that's when, because we don't have a lot of time, that's when we found out my medical records are classified and my personnel records are classified. So we couldn't get access to everything, and they denied access. And then senators got involved. Senator McCain was the ultimate one that got involved. And at one point, they even denied I was in the Air Force in 1979. They had all my records from 79 to 82 were non-existent. So they actually denied my claim or treatment because they claimed I wasn't even in the Air Force in 79. And in 1980s when the event happened, but they didn't show me in the Air Force until 1982. So it took a lot of stuff went on. The Department of Justice got involved. What was it? What do they call it? I can't remember the agency. There's another agency that got involved, but eventually they had to admit I was in, and they settled. And they settled on the fact, partly because of these classified documents, the British had talked about UAPs and what they were, and Rendlesham was involved, and other documents we had and stuff that were given to me and stuff, which included a CIA guy that showed up. It was a CIA doctor that was involved in UAP injuries and stuff showed up. So eventually myself and the sergeant was with me on night 3 actually received disability for the event and are being treated from the event. So the Rendlesham case is the one case, not that other people haven't had encounters or had injuries or anything. We are the one case that there's a memo confirming it happened. The Air Force admitted it happened, and 2 people that were involved are being treated by the VA for that.
When were you okay to start talking about any of this?
They never really tried to stop us. When they tried to contain it. So like after the News of the World came out, I got called in and I had to do a secure line with the Pentagon and Public Affairs. And they laid out what I couldn't do. But they did want me to speak with CNN briefly because they didn't want to make it look like there was a cover up, but they didn't want me to talk about what happened. They just wanted to say look at the Halt memo, which at the time technology was a lot different. So he did bring the Halt memo, and I looked at it, and I was just supposed to say that's what happened, and that was it. But the Halt memo wasn't right either. But they wanted me to at least confirm I was there and that an event took place, but they didn't want me to talk about it. And then they moved me over to Korea right afterwards. So, okay. And I actually was over there. It was strange. I didn't know that at the time till later. Colonel Halt was over in Korea with me, and he was at Kunsan as the base commander. I was at Osan, and General Williams, he was a colonel at the time. He was the wing commander at Bentwaters, was the PACAF commander. So they hit all 3 of us over in Korea once CNN got involved and did the story and stuff. And in fact, after it came out, they brought me into OSI with a copy of the report. I had to sit down and go over everything that was put in the report with OSI afterwards.
So all 3 together, not a coincidence. So like all 3 in the same area, not a coincidence.
Well, Korea was impossible to get into because the thing is that you had to go through Japan to get to Korea, and you had to get a visa to get in from Japan into Korea. And the CNN guy tracked us down and wanted to come into Korea, and they were denied a visa. In fact, he said that they were told that if they continued to pursue this, that they would cut them off on other access to other military operations. Wow. So they allowed them to report on it, but they killed the story right after that. So,
okay, so and this is the part that I'm a little confused about, and it's my confusion. It's not how the book is written or anything like that. It's just my confusion a little bit. We're talking about also the weaponization, and am I understanding correctly that there's like a kind of it's like a copycat version of this made of what you saw, but made by for sure by the U.S. government?
Well, what I can say is this, okay, and it's in the book. There's a known phenomenon in Rendlesham. Across the world, there are different areas that have this type of phenomenon. They were aware of it. They were actually studying it. There was a team down there that was not down there for our event. They were already down there studying the phenomenon. They had all kinds of equipment, and they were testing different types of technology down there to include SDI. Most people think SDI didn't start till after Reagan became president. They were working on SDI in the 70s. And they were working on it right there at Martlesham Heath and Bowsey and these other locations that were there. So they were working on exotic technology. They were studying the phenomenon. They were actually provoking the phenomenon to try to utilize it. And there's all kinds of things that they can use with this phenomenon and the UAPs when it comes to stealth technology, communications, and different things like that. So yeah, they're weaponizing it, and we cover that quite a bit in the book. In fact, a lot of the new technology they're utilizing right now, lasers, different things that they're utilizing and stuff, that all was being worked on back in 1980. And it's interesting because some of the scientists that were involved with this and were working on duty the night of our event, they actually committed suicide supposedly afterwards. And you had SDI. And now what do we have? Missing scientists, the Golden Dome. Okay. So there's a lot of things that are parallel to back then to now that were going on with this technology and the advancements.
Whoop, lost your here you go. Let me put you gotta unmute on your end, or you lost your mic. One of the two. Funny enough, when you're talking about that, there you go, you're back.
Anyway, the interesting thing is that the same people that were involved in helping me get my settlement that work inside government and these projects and stuff were working.
Oh, lost.
They've continued with these programs all the way through to modern day. They're still involved in this. They're still talking about different things. Hal Puthoff's one of them. He ran Project Stargate, which most people don't know what that project was, but it was a real project that was involving remote viewing. He was involved in this technology. So all this technology was being worked on then, and a lot of it's operational or about to become operational now.
Wow. And you, like you said, you like some people said that they were interrogated. You never felt like, you never thought you were interrogated. Did you ever feel like that your life was endangered for any reason after those events that happened in 1980?
Actually, no, I think I've been protected for some reason. I mean,
Sure.
Realistically, if that group hadn't stepped up, we were fighting it, but my surgery happened. I only had less than a month to live because my heart was failing. And they expedited it, getting it done by telling them what to look for and how to treat it. So there's some reason why I think that I've been protected, not necessarily my life's in danger, but at the same time, all this technology is classified and they're not going to, give it up. That's why, I mean, we could touch on this after the break, but there's never going to be disclosure because they're never going to give what they know in these classified programs.
I think that is a fantastic tease for us to take a break right now, so we can come back and let's talk about that. I think that's incredible. Let's do that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have John F. Burroughs with us. He was in Rendlesham Forest in 1980, and it's a very famous situation. And if you don't know it, there's a lot of YouTube videos on it. This is a great conversation. Do not go anywhere. Come back with us. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kiddie carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We are going to do a replay from April of 2025. And what that is we're talking about Severe Weather Awareness Week. And I think that's going to be actually a nice coincidence because I think we're going to have some severe weather in the Twin Cities tomorrow. Justin Wenzel, who's been on the program many times, and he's a storm chaser, he's going to join us, and we're going to be talking about some of his best chases and other things that have gone on with him with that as well. And it's a great episode, great conversation. If you have any interest in the weather, especially severe weather, it's worth a watch. I'm going to be back Friday with a brand new Casual Friday, and we're going to be talking about paranormal drama. And if those who don't know what I mean by that, I don't mean like putting on plays or anything. We're talking about how the community has been kind of at odds with each other for a while, and we're going to kind of touch on that a little bit. I think we're going to talk some UFO as well, so join us for that. My guest tonight is John F. Burroughs, and we're talking about his book, Project Rendlesham, Crossing the Threshold. And once again, I just want to point out that the book is available. You can go to your local bookseller, Barnes & Noble, whatever you want to do. But you can also get it through GhostBoxRadio.com, Ghostbox Book Club. There, the Amazon affiliated link will be able to directly help the show as well. Right before going to break, you had mentioned something I think is very interesting. You said that you do not believe there will be a disclosure day.
Well, before we go there, because we'll run out of time, a lot of people will ask, what do I think we encountered? Okay. Yep. So we definitely encountered a known phenomenon that's in the area, okay, that they were studying. We also encountered our technology that we're studying the phenomena and possibly provoking it, okay? So we walked into a toxic soup, but like I said before we went to break, they're clearly are aware of it, and they're using it in their technology, our advanced technology, our exotic technology. So,
you got muted. Which is what's again very interesting talking about all this stuff. I'm sure it's a coincidence, but John is there you go.
So getting back to disclosure, one of the things that just come out recently was they said they're no longer looking at anything having to do with the fact of our technology, foreign technology, or the known phenomenon. Okay. So they've ignored the phenomenon. What they're only looking for now is simply something that they've never been aware of, that's under the covers or that happens, that can get me reported. So they're not looking to divulge what they know. They're just trying to make sure that anything that they don't know about, they get the data on it, right?
Yep.
So that's the first thing, okay? The second thing is, all these particular technologies and programs go back to SAP programs, special access programs. Only a limited.
You're muted again. They're keep I don't know what's going on.
So am I back?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So they're on this list. So anybody that's works with these projects can't talk about it. And not only can't they talk about it, but let's say even if they could, they won't do.
I can't. Your audio's gone again. That's interesting.
Okay. On top of that, they'd have to get permission to talk about it, which they won't get.
Right.
And then the Congress people that are investigating this don't have access to that, don't have that kind of clearance or anything else. In fact, the subcommittee's doing it. Comer's not even involved, and he's the only one that has subpoena power or the power to push this further. So it's not going anywhere because they're not going to give up national security. Now, whether people agree with that or not, it's a different story. But disclosure is what people want and expect is not going to happen. They may dabble around with videos and different events. They may even dabble into the fact what the vice president said recently about it could be demons or whatever. But they're going to go into exactly what they know and what we're doing with it and how we're utilizing it.
It goes against their self-interest, right? It goes against what
it's just the national security state. Yeah, it goes against the national security state. So, yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, and this is probably a very unpopular view on my end, but I mean, that's why I personally don't believe that we're ever going to find like a cure for cancer or anything, because there's too many special interest groups that would not benefit from that information getting out there. I think
we could go down that road too. Yeah, they don't want to cure us; they just want to treat us. And I don't disagree with that at all. But in this case, it goes a little deeper because it's national security. In other words, they don't want the other side to really know what we have, what our capabilities are, and everything else. So I'm not saying that it's totally right all the time, but we've lived in a national security state, back World War I. You know what I mean? This has been ongoing, and it's been growing and expanding. And even the president doesn't have access to a lot of this stuff because he doesn't know about it. You can sit there and say, how could he not? Well, does he know about every program the military is doing? No. I mean, you know what I mean? On top of everything else. So even when he says, well, we're going to allow people to talk about it. Well, first of all, the people have to want to come forward. And second of all, if they do, then they're going to have to get clearance, and they're not going to get that. And I was asked to come up, and it's in the book. We've got the emails. They wanted me to come up and speak with Arrow, and they wanted me to talk to Congress and all that, and I declined. I said, before I do anything, you need to get the government to admit what happened. In other words, you need to get them to admit why they gave me my compensation, what happened to us, and what they know. And nobody's been able to get that done. So otherwise, I'm just up there talking about an event. And I do have a document. It's in the book. We actually put it in there so they can see I did get my settlement for that. So there is more evidence than usual, but we still don't have a government response to what happened to us and why they're treating us, other than they've accepted that we were injured during the event.
Sure. Now, something that I've always thought about, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, like why the president, he doesn't know every program that's going on. You don't expect any president to. I mean, you just don't expect that, right? I mean, that makes total sense. I've always looked at it this way, that you have politics and you have government. and government is the one that's it's the day to day. It's also the ones having all the different it's the running of the country in a very much deeper level, which I think encompasses anything to do with possible UAPs or anything like that. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, no, elected officials come and go. I mean,
Right.
That's fact. And even the cabinet comes and goes. All those people come and go. There is an underlying, group that's inside the intelligence agencies that control everything. And even in this administration, which people are yelling and screaming and a lot hasn't come out, I believe they've tried. I just don't think they're getting anywhere because again, you have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, then you can't ask. And even if you know something, they can deny, they can just say they don't have anything on file on that.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm getting at? So,
Yep.
so it's a cat and mouse game. And again, I'm not against national security. So I do believe there needs to be secrets kept. And you can't tell the American people, say, well, we need to know. Well, if you know, then the enemy knows. So there is a fine line on keeping things secret and everything else. But the only real question to people that come back and say, well, we're ready for this. How would anybody sit there and say, our civilization is ready to know about another civilization when we can't even get along with each other?
You just answered the next question I was going to ask, because and we have about 5 minutes left. If suddenly President Trump is like, hey, this is everything, and it was kind of like just a show all of everything, and that it confirms so much stuff. My question to you was, do you think that we could handle it?
No. The people claim they could, but we can't handle the things that we're going on right now. And remember something else. We're manipulated constantly by the news, by the press and the government.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, we have no idea for sure what they told us is real. You know what I mean? And that would lead to hysteria and, issues with the economy and everything else. People would not sit well. And we can't get together as cultures. How are we going to get together with another, civilization?
Species.
Yeah, species. Yeah.
I mean, and this is, we're rapidly running out of time, so this is another conversation another day. But yeah, I mean, just the whole, everything about this, and the fact is that I feel like that even the information that is given to us by, I don't want to say their names, but they're prominent in UFO circles. I feel like I consider that weaponization as well, because it's I can't tell if it's true or not, and it seems to be almost more fear mongering from some camps. I'm not saying that's not a bad idea, because maybe in the sense that we should be prepared, but at the same time, I don't know if that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah, but the thing is that this has been going on for what? Since you go back to Native Americans way back, they saw things in the sky. But this has been going on since the 40s for sure, where the press, the news, and everything start talking about it and stuff. So why to this day do we not know if there's another civilization that wants to be known? That's here. Why we still don't know? How is that being kept from us? And there's only one possibility. Anyone who's had an encounter with this phenomenon, it keeps you from remembering what exactly it was. Totally. We have about 2 minutes left. One quick question. Yeah. Because we talk about this whole thing, but we don't really talk about. I feel like we're talking about UFOs, or I'm calling it that. You didn't call it that. But separate from government, do you think that we are working with other species currently to further our own interest, or anywhere in the world furthering? I mean, that's a whole different show, but I'm not an expert in that. I would find it highly unlikely that what's been put out there and what people have discussed is factual. Have we ever maybe had some kind of encounter with it? The government knows more about it, yes, but I don't think that we're actively working with all these different species or whatever they want, the reptilians and all that. Sure. I don't believe that. I never saw any evidence of that. I've done a lot of research, but is it possible? Sure. I think there's a phenomenon out there that we're studying, we're learning how it works, how it adapts and everything, and we're trying to utilize it. But I don't think that it wants us to do that. I think there's a conflict going on with that. And we go into great detail in Project Rendlesham about what the government knows, documents, declassified documents, the stonewalling we've got when we've tried to ask about certain technology and everything else. It's a good book, and it goes into a lot of details, including our event and everything else, and the cover-up by the government on us. And it's cited and sourced, and there's a lot of emails and stuff that I've had with different agencies and different people in there, including a document that shows that the VA acknowledged I was inserted in the line of duty and is treating me.
So once again, the book is called Project Rendlesham, Crossing the Threshold. There's also a hardcover version, which looks really nice as well, that you might want to check out as well. You can get it all sorts of different places. And this is just a teaser. We got to get going here, John. But once again, the author is John F. Burroughs, along with Toby Martinez. John, this was an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for it.
Well, thanks for having me on, Greg. I enjoyed the time.
I hope that you come back sometime. I really love it if you could.
Okay, no problem. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll be back tomorrow with Justin Wenzel. Everyone, have a good night.